enter 15 and get 15% off on all ProPure systems at InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.
Coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
Absolutely, and it's constantly being threatened. Since I don't know all the technology involved in how the internet works, I'm betting on the free market and free individuals, and the fact that this is universal to come up and counteract everything that the government does. Get around it. So I'm hoping technology is the vehicle that undermines the authoritarianism that exists in so many of our governments, and that's what I'm hoping for.
That's right. We can compete and innovate our way out of the tyranny. That's our greatest Renaissance hope. All right, in the 4 or 5 minutes we've got left, sir, I want to get into what you've really been focusing on so eloquently. We've got a professor coming on later who backs you up. This issue of what's unfolding over in the Ukraine and the demonization by state-run media of anyone that doesn't want to have the EU and NATO take over Ukraine. I mean, they've taken over 90% of the country. They overthrew the government. This is a big defeat for Russia. As you said, Putin's no angel, but I mean, the media over here is acting like Russia is starting World War III. Instead, the West is starting a new Cold War. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's what they're doing. And I go back and forth from, the American people are buying into it again. They're listening to all the TV and going along with it. But then I go and I look for a glimmer of hope, and we find out that occasionally they'll do a poll, and that poll will show the American people are still coming toward our position and saying, no, we don't need another war. We don't need to, be involved. We don't need troops on the ground. But I don't think the average person on the street yet realizes how much money we put into messing around with the internal affairs of Ukraine for the last 10 years plus, with all the National Endowment for Democracies. Even Victoria Nuland admitted that the Department of State has spent over $5 billion interfering, with the government. So, yes, there are problems around, and like you said, we can't defend Russia as being the angels, but if we just stayed out of it, it would be a big help. There's no help at all whatsoever for us to be involved there. The evidence is so clear. Look, whether it's Libya or Egypt or Afghanistan or Iraq we're over in Syria giving money and helping and aiding the Al-Qaeda. So, but I think the American people are waking up. They might not see it quite like I do about minding our own business and have non-interventions like our founders wanted, but the conservatives are saying, you know what, we are broke. You know, there has to be a limit. Have you noticed that already, that some people are saying, well, we better wake up because, you know, the bank is empty. And
That's right.
All they're doing is printing money, so we have to quit.
Well, that's the issue, is that the socialists and people want us bankrupt. They want us dependent. They want to wreck the golden goose so they can control everything. Two final questions for Ron Paul of RonPaulChannel.com. Dr. Paul, looking at the presidential run, hands down, your son's the best candidate. He's leading in all the polls. Ted Cruz is also, I think, a great guy, but I don't completely overall trust him because I haven't known him like I've known your son for 16 years since he was campaigning for you to get back into Congress for 17 years. I do trust Rand. He's done a great job. How do we get behind Rand? He's clearly going to run for president now. He started the exploratory group. He's the front runner. What are you planning to do to support him for president?
Well, mainly, you know, trying to get people to understand the issues, because a person like Rand or myself or anybody that agrees with us, the problem is that the general population thinks it's not in their best interest if you don't want to promote war and welfare. Well, they want welfare. What we have to do is educate people to the point where we're realizing it's in their interest. Most people vote in their own self-interest, and as long as they think they're going to get something. You know, the big bankers know exactly what they're doing. It's in their own interest, but we have to get people to understand it's in their best interest to vote for somebody like Rand, and even if they want to, even if they will be charged with saying, oh, they don't care about the poor people. You've heard that enough. They think that we have no concern. But the whole thing is, if anybody had any compassion or any concern for the poor, they ought to believe in liberty, because the evidence is so clear that the freer a country it is, the more prosperity and the greater chance that we have for peace. But it's mainly getting that out, mobilizing people, energizing people, getting supporters, sending money. All these things are necessary for a campaign to be successful.
What about a Rand Paul, Ted Cruz ticket? Do you think Ted Cruz would run as VP?
Oh, I have no idea. I imagine not too many people turn it down.
Well, I like Ted Cruz. What's your view of him?
Well, I have hesitation about his foreign policy.
I do too, yeah.
I'm a little less interventionist than he is on foreign policy. But, you know, he's tough, and he certainly agrees with us on the medical care system in this country and how bad it is and what we ought to do. So. Speaking
of that, lastly, Obamacare, he says we can't repeal it. 80% in many polls are against it, but the Republican leadership, you know, helped write it, as you exposed. What would you do, sir, to dismantle this? Everything you said about it has now come true. Your analysis was absolutely on target. It's worse than we even thought in many cases. It's bankrupting the country, raising payroll taxes on poor people. The architect of it, Ezekiel Emanuel, admits it's meant to wreck the system. I mean, isn't that criminal?
Absolutely, and if you could, if you had a Congress to pass a law to repeal it, you could. The odds of that happening are very slim, but there has to be a way that you can legalize freedom of choice to get out of an evil program, you know. And we sort of had that going, but now with Obamacare, it's been so de-emphasized, and that is the right of you and I to get out and take care of ourselves and get a tax deduction and have a medical savings account. People will just flock to that once they realize, that these lies about Obamacare, you know, are lies, and that people aren't going to be very happy with it. So we always have to have the right to opt out. We always should have, just in schooling, you have to have a right to get out of the government schools. You have to be able to go to a private school or do homeschooling. And when they eliminate that, then we're in big trouble. And in medicine, they're essentially trying to do that for any of us to opt out of the system. And right now, there's a lot of unhappy people because it's based on pure authoritarianism.
Wow. Well, former Congressman Ron Paul, RonPaulChannel.com. Thank you so much for your tireless defense of liberty. And we look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, sir. All right, there he goes. Just incredible the way he analyzes everything. In fact, he crystallized it. Obamacare is an evil program. It's an evil system. We should have a right to not be part of it. This is a basic civil, God-given right. The way he described Ted Cruz as tough. Ted Cruz is tough. 28 hours, not going to the bathroom, staying eloquent. I've tried to do a 24-hour broadcast. I can hardly do it. I mean, he's tough. And you've got his wife's background on the Council on Foreign Relations and Goldman Sachs. It is not good. But I follow the record of Judge a Tree by its fruits. The fruits are about 95% good with him. They're about 97% good with Rand Paul. They're not going to get elected unless they play some politics. My gut tells me that Ted Cruz deep down does love liberty and understands the way the wind blows, too, that liberty's the only thing that's going to save this country. A lot of the establishment doesn't want to totally wreck the country. They just want power. And I think Ted Cruz kind of represents that, the non-insane establishment. Because the establishment's figuring out when real tyranny comes in, there's not going to be a bunch of seats at the table. Whoever gets the ring of power in this new tyranny, this technocracy, is going to shut down all their competition. Everyone, the common folks, working class, middle class, wealthy, nouveau riche, ultra rich, everyone. You really don't want tyranny. It stinks. It's bad. There's a small group of evil people who literally hate families, literally hate God, literally hate justice. I've studied it. In all my 20 years of work, 19 years on air, knowing Rand Paul actually 18, since like 1996. In all of it, it just comes down to these people want the power to persecute good people. They want the power to control the media and tell an actress, you got to have sex with me if you want to be in state-run media. They want the power to have the street signs the color they want. They want the power to tell you what your house can look like or what drugs your kids have got to take. They want to run your life. I don't want to run people's life. I don't want to tell my crew what to do. I want to lead them by example and show them how to defeat tyranny. I do not want to sit there henpecking them, standing over them, telling them what to do all day. Well, the establishment wants that. And you talk to somebody like Ron Paul, I mean, he's the real deal, folks. And that's why socialists and tyrants and control freaks everywhere don't like him. Because collectivism destroys people. Collectivism makes people dependent. Collectivism makes people weak. Victor Hugo, the French philosopher, said it best. Adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. Adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters.
Well, that's Alex Jones talking to Ron Paul. That was taped earlier. Alex is going to be joining us live tomorrow on his own show at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is